Disinformation knows no borders, and today the stakes seem higher than ever. Welcome to Truth Talks, a brave new podcast series tackling the challenges of fake news and propaganda head on. Join us for engaging short conversations with experts from all EU member states and Ukraine as we uncover the truth behind dominant disinformation trends and explore the strategies shaping Europe's fight against manipulation. In this episode, we are zooming in on Slovakia. Today's guest is Vladimír Šnídl, a Slovak journalist working for the daily Denník N. He is the author of the book Truth and Lies on Facebook. Welcome to Truth Talks.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. I will try to be helpful as much as I can.
Our pleasure. Slovakia has faced a significant surge in disinformation, particularly in recent years. What are the dominant disinformation narratives circulating in the country?
General dominant narratives are around topics that are popular in social media. They touch issues that people live. So during COVID, of course, the most popular disinformation were about COVID, about vaccines. When the war started, the most popular disinformation were about the war. In what way is Slovakia quite interesting laboratory for all the experts who focus on this field? Slovakia belong to the countries that are the most affected by especially Russian propaganda and especially conspiracy theories. Also, when we compare it with Poland, with Czech Republic, even with Hungary, in Central and Eastern Europe, there is only one country when we talk about member states that are so deeply affected by these phenomena, and it's Bulgaria. So Bulgaria and Slovakia are countries the most affected by disinformation and Russian propaganda and conspiracy theories.
And why is it so?
There are, of course, several reasons. Why? One of the reasons is quite low trust of people towards the institutions. So Slovaks in general don't trust institutions, don't trust state so much, don't trust the media, and this creates field for so-called alternative media that use also, of course, especially social media. Another reason is that in Slovakia is quite strong sentiment towards the communist regime. It's stronger than in Czech Republic, stronger than in Poland. So it's sentiment towards the era when Slovakia was part of Eastern Bloc. These are several reasons.
Okay, but at the same time, we see that distrust is this emotion that is becoming quite universal. So we also have huge levels and rising of distrust towards the media, institutions, politicians, in experts in Poland too, and still in Slovakia. That is ahead in disinformation. And the other question I'd like to ask: why is this sentiment towards the communist times stronger in Slovakia than in other countries of the region?
One of the reasons is that the period of transition was in Slovakia more difficult. So here was the quite significant economic shock comparing, for example, to Czech Republic. And another reason is that Slovakia is quite significantly affected by emigration. Slovak population is about 5,000,000 and 400,000, and more than half of million people live abroad. And mostly we talk about people who are pro-Western, who are maybe active, who are maybe younger. So when you take from relatively small nation, let's say 10%, that are more pro-Western oriented, probably mostly liberal. So these people logically miss in the country. They cannot day by day influence other people. So this is also one. For example, this you cannot find it in Czech Republic. Czech Republic is not so big affected by emigration. Of course, Poland was different case, but as I know, is much better comparing to the first years or after Poland joined the European Union. So there is another reason I see.
Okay, so coming back to the narratives, because you quite sketchily touched upon the narratives you mentioned when something appears in the society, in politics, in the social media, it becomes the major piece of narrative, like war-related fake news or disinformation.
I will
That's
just
what.
add that.
Mhm.
I will just add that we talk about topics that create some emotions, some fear, and so on. So we talk about emotion or topics that shock society.
Can you give me any examples, not only of the themes, but the specific narratives, disinformative narratives?
I can give you example of perception the war in Ukraine when think tank Globsec makes surveys when ask people in several countries of Europe who started the war, and they offer option if Russia started the war, Ukraine started the war, or the West started war. In Slovakia, there is around 50% of population who thinks that either Ukraine or Western countries are the most responsible for the war. So around half percent of population believes Russian propaganda that aggressor is not aggressor. Again, and on the opposite, only around 40% of Slovaks can correctly name the aggressor. Only 30% of Slovaks in the surveys say that Russia is responsible for the war. In Czech Republic, with the same question, 70%. In Czech Republic, 70% of population says that Russia is aggressor. In Slovakia, just 40. In Poland, more than 90.
Incredible. And why? Is it coming from the bottom up, or is it kind of the horizontal disinformation coming from other countries, or is it top down, like Slovak politicians fanning, spreading this disinformation?
I just want to add that it doesn't mean that 50% of population is pro-Russian. No, when there are another surveys, when people are asked to which direction or where you would like to see your country, either on the west or on the east, is the latest surveys from this year. 20% of Slovaks say we want to see our country on the east, and more than 60 say on the west. So it doesn't mean that all these people who believes in Russian propaganda, they want to join Russia or things like that. And yes, you mentioned a good point. Slovakia is also quite specific in a way that currently the most important channels of pro-Russian propaganda are not disinformation media or Sputnik, so on, but the mouths of concrete Slovak politicians, especially Prime Minister. Slovakia is specific in the way that Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, who is also the most influenced politician in social media and also the strongest politician in power, he repeats Russian propaganda that war was started in 2014 when Ukrainian Nazis started to kill Russians in Donbass and so on. So he copies Russian propaganda and he spread it by his own mouth. So yeah, probably this you cannot find in a lot of in other countries in European Union. So politicians, they can read these surveys and they see that it's very easy to attract these people. So they repeat Russian propaganda because they see that it works.
Okay, so do you think that there is this egg and chicken situation. Who comes first? Is it Fico first, that he is creating certain views in the society, or he spots that there is certain vulnerability in the society, that there are some gossip on the fringes, and he hears them well and transforms them in narratives, legitimizing them? And what is the source? Is it him, or is it some fringe views of the people?
It's spiral. We started to note Russian propaganda in Slovakia in 2014 when there was an ecosystem of pro-Russian disinformation website. They were not very political. Certainly in 2014, in Slovakia were created disinformation media that spread pro-Russian propaganda, and we know that people from these media were in contact with Russian state. And they used American social media in Slovakia, especially Facebook and YouTube, and they strengthened these narratives, Russian narratives, and suddenly politicians saw, or some politicians, I don't want to say that every politician are Russian. No, currently the most popular party in Slovak public opinion surveys is a progressive pro-Western liberal party, and the Russian party called Smer is second in current surveys. But in some moment, some politicians saw that this narrative works in social media, and they adapt, they adjust, and then they strengthen by their own mouths. So it was not only disinformation media suddenly, but also videos from these concrete politicians. They repeated these Russian narratives in television discussions. So it ended, it strengthened to another phase.
Okay, so now a very simplistic question, I would say. What is the most widespread fake news in circulation at present in Slovakia?
Last year, Slovak society was shocked by shooting on Prime Minister Robert Fico. So government parties tried to use this situation and try to spread theories, from my point of view, conspiracy theories, that media, that opposition parties are in charge of this assassination, even though that evidence miss. And in general, the most popular narratives in Slovakia, or disinformation narratives, are about foreign policy. So also Robert Fico, especially in social media, he don't make so much videos about local politics. Or when he makes videos, there are videos when he's attacking on opposition parties. But mostly what works is topics related to the foreign policy. That, for example, Slovakia is misused by European Union, and since Donald Trump became president, United States are not the main evil anymore. So now Ukraine is in their narratives evil, who is in charge of everything about inflation, about uh, cyber attacks on state systems. So they need to find somebody who is responsible for all the problems of Slovakia, and of course this evil has to be abroad. And since, as I said, United States are friends, because Trump is now friend for Slovak Russian politicians, they found another target, and Ukraine is another target.
Sad but fascinating. Now I would like to ask about the major actors spreading and creating this information. You've already mentioned Russia, and you've already mentioned Robert Fico as the major mouth, in a way, of disinformation, but maybe there are other actors that are active here.
I mentioned Russia in the beginning, but we don't know if Slovak politicians who spread pro-Russian narratives, they do it in order to help Russia. Of course, they help interests of Russia, but they do it First, because of their own interest, because it makes them to stay in power. And in general, as I said, the main area of disinformation in Slovakia is Facebook. The Facebook is main area and social media. So the main actors are those who are successful in Facebook, and mostly we talk about politicians, and then about so-called influencers who spread Russian propaganda and conspiracy theories. Because it's very easy to be popular in social media. If I would like to change a job, I think I can be also influencer in this way, because it's very easy. You just have to hate liberals. You just have to hate LGBT community, migrants, Ukrainians, European Union, media, and you just have to spread conspiracy theories that 9/11 was conspiracy and so on. And when you will do it and repeat it and do it in quite creative way and dynamic way, you will be popular. It's very easy to tackle this audience that are anti-Western, anti-liberal. You have to talk about traditional values, about that the liberals threat our children.
Sounds like a moment in the discussion where big tech platforms can become one of the bad guys in our conversation. How would you define the specific, unique, exceptional characteristics of the disinformation landscape specific to Slovakia?
As I said, Slovakia is maybe specific because, especially because of Facebook, Twitter or X is not so dominant, and but also I would like to say also that we don't just complain about it and not do anything. We also, in some ways, Slovakia is specific also that also the other side can mobilize itself, and it's struggle. So even though that we know the service, we don't give it up, and there is quite strong civic society, pro-Western civic society. You can also see that tens thousands of people every second week went to the streets and say in the streets, and not only in big cities, also in small regional cities, that Slovakia belong to the West, that we are not Russia. They can support media, they can support some NGOs, they try to do media literacy, they try to oppose government. So also in this way, I think Slovakia is I don't want to say unique, but that also many people can mobilize themselves also in the other direction.
Finally, I would like to ask what's being done to counter disinformation in Slovakia and what more would you recommend?
First of all, we don't rely on state. Also, we don't rely on the European Union. We are aware that only who can do something with it is only ourselves. Only we can do something with that, because
You mean the citizens or the media?
citizens, media, civic society, and what we can do. And this is also my recommendation, because I do these activities for more than 8 years. So, what is in general reason of disinformation, or that people are affected by disinformation? As I said, the social media are the main area, and the big problem are not only social media and its algorithms, but also that we are not prepared on social media. People are not educated, they don't know how algorithm works. That algorithm will offer you negative content, conspiracy content, because they are only about that, they only count how much time we spend. So what we can do, we try to prepare people on social media. We try to talk as much as possible about algorithm. We try to teach people from our bubble how you can communicate with your friends, with your relatives who believes Russian propaganda. We try to do media literacy in schools and talk with children. Don't be so long in TikTok. and or do something reasonable in social media, not just scroll reels. We try to teach teachers how they can teach about social media. So this is what we try to do, prepare as much people as we can on social media.
Sounds like a really important job. That brings us to the end of our conversation about the Slovak disinformation landscape. Vladimir, thank you for sharing all this fascinating input.
Thank you, and apologize my Erasmus English.
Thank you very much.
Truth Talk series is part of the project Guardians of Truth, fact-checking during Poland's EU presidency, which is supported by European Media and Information Fund, managed by Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation.